call to order the Grant County Board of Commission meeting for August 17th, 2017. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. You can't hear me? That's not us. Is that better? Join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. Salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico, this is symbol of perfect friendship among united cultures. Let's see. It's over here. Is that better? Is that better? Barely. You can't hear it? It's all the way up. Now we'll just go. First item on the agenda is to approve the regular meeting agenda. Is there any changes need to come on the agenda? No?
Yes, sir. We are removing item G under agreements for the energy control, Optera Energy Services for investment grade energy audit and project proposal. They submitted some last-minute changes yesterday that we need to discuss with them. So we would like to move that to the September meeting.
Any objections?
They're all the way up.
I guess I need to go talk to them in there because it's 100% up here.
Can you hear me? There you go. Just gotta get close to your mic. Test. Testing this one. Sounds like ours too. Test. So we want to hear you.
He's working on it right now. Is that better?
Thank you.
Otherwise, I'll turn it off and I'll just yell.
I'll try it again. Is that better? We are removing item G from agreements. The agreement to with Optera Energy Services for an investment-grade energy audit and project proposal. They submitted last-minute changes yesterday, so we need to discuss that with the firm. We'll take that up on the September agenda.
Any objections? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the amended agenda?
So moved.
A motion. Don't turn it down. A motion to approve the regular meeting agenda as amended. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Okay, public input. During this portion of our meeting, we welcome your suggestions and want to hear your concerns. It's not a question and answer period. Speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. Any individual who would like to discuss an item in more depth may request to be placed on a future agenda. Request forms are available in the county manager's office. So at this time, as soon as I get my stopwatch up, we will accept public comment. Raise your hand if you want to speak. Donna, you can go first.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Donna Stevens, and I am the Director of the Upper Gila Watershed Alliance, a watershed protection nonprofit based in the Gila Valley and Silver City. Some of my comments here this morning are the same as what I gave at yesterday's CAP entity meeting. And of course, they're related to what you have on your agenda today to vote on the amendments to the Joint Powers Agreement. So the CAP entity, as you know, was formed to oversee a diversion. The amended JPA, we feel, is a classic example of mission creep. At the meetings, the director and some of the board members say that partnership with Freeport-McMoRan is premature, but the amended JPA doesn't just give the CAP entity the permission to explore opportunities to partner with Freeport. It actually authorizes them to do so. And as we all know, things have to be written down, otherwise they don't count. So we are concerned that the amended JPA as written would give us license to export Freeport's water out of the county to who knows where, we haven't heard yet. And this is very concerning because it could use public funding to benefit a global corporation. Also, I just want to say that if Grant County decides to vote against the amendments to the Joint Powers Agreement, that doesn't mean that you will lose your seat at the table. It doesn't mean that you're no longer part of the CAP entity. It just means you're voting against the amendment proposals. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Allison Civic, Executive Director of the Gila Conservation Coalition. As Donna said, on your agenda this morning is voting on the amended Joint Powers Agreement of the New Mexico CAP entity. As we've discussed at the last couple meetings, CAP entity meeting, the last Grant County Commission meeting, the amended JPA gives the CAP entity expanded authorities outside of the Arizona Water Settlements Act to acquire the Freeport-McMoran Bill Evans Diversion and Storage Facility and to buy, lease, and sell non-AWSA water, existing water rights, to become the water czar for our region. We heard Commissioner Brown at the last Commission meeting characterize this JPA amendment as classic mission creep. Absolutely it is. We don't need this extra layer of bureaucracy buying and selling water and exporting our water out of southwest New Mexico, mostly for the benefit of the largest publicly traded copper company in the world, Freeport-McMoran, a company that makes billions of dollars in profit every year. Exporting Gila River water or Members Basin groundwater owned by Freeport will impact Grant County residents, irrigators on the Gila River, whose water rights may be junior to Freeport's, as well as our municipalities that rely on Members Basin groundwater, whose water rights are just a fraction of Freeport's holdings. Meanwhile, the CAP entity has been siphoning off millions of AWSA dollars for lawyers and engineers as it expands its water kingdom. That money could be going to critically needed, high-priority water projects identified through the Infrastructure Capital Improvement Planning process, like the Grant County Regional Water Supply Project. Priscilla Lucero is here today. I want to commend her for her work through the Southwest New Mexico Council of Governments for getting USDA rural development funding as a match to the Interstate Stream Commission's $2.1 million to fund phase one of the Grant County Regional Water Supply Project, but this project still needs many millions more to fund and complete all 4 phases of this project. AWSA money could be used to completely fund that project. I think $18 million was the total price tag for that project. Maybe with additional studies, maybe that price tag has gone up. Priscilla could get you the latest numbers, but regardless, the AWSA funding could go to this Grant County Regional Water Supply Project and get it done. Irrigators also need more funding to fix ditch infrastructure. AWSA money is better spent on these local, high-priority water projects. As Donna mentioned, a vote today in opposition to the amended JPA will not remove Grant County from the New Mexico CAP entity. It simply means that the CAP entity will need to rethink its JPA amendment. And I've sent to all of the commissioners, a legal analysis that our attorney did of the JPA that you have that explains what the JPA does or what this amendment would do and based on its bylaws. So I encourage you today to do the right thing for Grant County residents and protect our future water security from power-hungry, really, bureaucrats and lawyers. Thank you.
Further public input? Yes, ma'am.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Louise Hummingbird, and I'm concerned about the proposal to allow ATV use on public roads, and I'd like to read from an article that came from the USA Today newspaper, entitled, "Study, ATV Crash Deaths Rising on Public Roads." IIHS study finds ATV crash deaths up on public roads. Most such deaths now occur on paved roads, study finds. Vehicles aren't designed for use on such roads. Many also drive drunk without helmets. All-terrain vehicles, which are hugely popular among hunters, anglers, and outdoor lovers, are designed for off-road use. Their low-pressure tires aren't meant for use on paved surfaces, and some are prone to rollovers. They are prohibited on most public roads. But many users taking their ATVs onto paved roads, and the majority of ATV crash deaths are now occurring on those roads, according to a new report from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. IIHS researchers found that deaths of ATV drivers and passengers have increased substantially in recent years as the vehicles have grown more popular and more people take them onto roadways. From 2007 to 2011, the most recent year for which government data is available, 1,701 ATV riders died in crashes on public roads in the USA, about 340 a year, according to IIHS. Today, two-thirds of all fatal ATV crashes occur on public or private roads, and I want to say that this article is from December of 2013. I'm sure the numbers have increased since then. A big part of the problem is that these vehicles are not designed for use on public roads, says Ann McCart, IIHS Senior Vice President for Research and a co-author of the study. The other part is that you often see risky behavior among drivers in these fatal crashes. Only 13% of them were wearing a helmet, and 43% were legally drunk. Others were speeding. Speeding was cited by police as a contributing factor in 42% of fatal single-vehicle ATV crashes and in 19% of multiple vehicle crashes, the report says. Of the ATV rider deaths studied by IIHS, 1,482 were drivers, 210 were passengers, and the rider status of 9 was unknown. Among the drivers killed, 90% were 16 or older, and 90% were male. The annual total of on-road fatal ATV crashes dropped 18% from 368 in 2007 to 305 in 2011. Highway deaths overall during that period fell about 21%, from 41,259 to 32,367. Even with the drop, more fatal ATV crashes occurred on roads than off-road, according to IIHS. ATVs with their oversized, low-pressure tires aren't solely for...
1 minute.
Okay. I'm going to wrap up and state some other concerns that I have. I listened to a news clip online of a really badly shaken, I think it was a truck driver, that was calling into 911, who said, "I think I just ran over. I saw I couldn't see them. There were a couple of kids on ATVs. I think I just ran over one and killed them." That was so disturbing to hear. I think with the increasing traffic that we're seeing on Highway 180, it would be a disaster to allow these vehicles on the road. Also, we're seeing increasing park damage from ATV riders, and I think it's just going to make it easier for them to get to our natural areas to destroy them. Also, last year, I experienced what seemed like a family of ATV riders joyriding up and down the street I live on, and it was quite disturbing. And I also talked to another lady the other day who lived in Silver who had experienced the same thing. And the engines are loud. It's if we can't relax in our own neighborhoods, in our own homes, where are we going to go anymore? If we can't have unspoiled nature that we can relax in, we need to have these places where we can feel like we can de-stress from our crazy busy lives. So,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome. Thank you.
Further public, Claudia?
Good morning, Commissioners, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you very much for allowing me this opportunity to make a public comment. My name is Claudia During, and I'm a resident of the Gila Valley. And my concern is regarding the Joint Powers Agreement for the New Mexico CAP entity. Following the July work session for the Commission, the Executive Director of the New Mexico CAP entity was quoted in the Grant County Beat as saying, "The New Mexico unit has moved from being a large facility to meet all of the water needs to smaller, focused on agriculture." This will be their only focus, not the water needs of the greater community. And in yesterday's meeting, we did hear a lot of information, and there wasn't even a blink of an eye of millions of dollars that are being planned to be spent on agriculture in the Gila Valley. Not only will the New Mexico CAP entity benefit agriculture, but the wording of the amended Joint Powers Agreement indicates that the entity may become the agency for the Southwest Planning Region of New Mexico for the purpose of developing other water utilization alternatives to meet water supply demands. For who? It's so vague, you have no way of knowing. After all, their new focus is only on agriculture. They will be adding another costly layer of government, performing tasks which have been satisfactorily completed through the ISC for many, many years. In the interest of being accurate in what I say, I want to make a critical point to the Commission and to everyone here today. The 2016 U.S. Census Bureau population for Grant County stands at 28,280 residents. That is a 4.2% decline from the 2010 census of 29,514 residents. 1,234 people in this county have either died or they have taken their time, their talents, and their money somewhere else. On the New Mexico Acequia Commission's website, which is accessible through the Interstate Stream Commission's website, there is a database that lists every single ditch in the state of New Mexico and how many people utilize each ditch. The current Grant County projects that are being planned by the New Mexico CAP entity will only provide direct benefit to the Gila Valley. It excludes Gila Hot Springs and the Red Rock area. That's 19 irrigators total. And it says nothing about the 74 who irrigate in the Members Valley. The only benefit that will be seen is to 47 residents who utilize the Gila system in the Gila Valley. 21 on the Fort West Ditch, 5 on the Upper Gila Ditch, 11 on the Riverside Ditch, and 10 on the Gila Farm Ditch. Now, the question to be asked is, how can you justify to the remaining 28,233 citizens of Grant County of spending even one more dollar for the sole benefit of 47 private residents, especially those who are under the specter of the December 2018 deadline? In closing, I would like to play a little game of what if. If I were a county commissioner Sir? Okay, if I were a county commissioner or on the board of the New Mexico CAP entity, I would like to have written confirmation from someone in authority with Freeport McMoran, Inc. that says that they are indeed entertaining a partnership with the New Mexico CAP entity. And number two, before I put pen to paper committing the citizens of Grant County to spending multiple of millions of dollars, I would want to see a wholly independent cost-benefit analysis of the current Gila Valley plans and the potential long-term tax burden that will occur once all of the free money is spent. Thank you very much.
Further public input?
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Shelby Hallmark. I'm a resident of Silver City. I want to commend Allison and Donna's earlier comments, and I have just one additional comment to make this morning. When you approved the original CAP entity, JPA, this body indicated that it saw the purpose of that entity as keeping the water in Grant County. I think that was specifically in the resolution. The expansion that's being discussed in this amendment is clearly indicated. Its purpose is to take water out of Grant County, not AWSA water, but water, probably much more water than AWSA involves. I just urge that you go back to that original purpose of keeping water in Grant County and reject this JPA. Thank you very much.
Further public input? Anthony?
My name is Anthony Gutierrez. I'm the executive director for the New Mexico CAP entity. And I always appreciate the public comment as it comes, but I'm here actually to make some clarifications on some questions that I know that were asked during the work session. One of them had to do with Commissioner Brown's question on why the amended JPA didn't have additional water utilization projects included besides the Freeport McMoran. We did discuss that the members of our board were the proponents of a lot of those projects that were initially given to the Interstate Stream Commission for consideration. They went through a vetting process and actually funded, I think, 16 projects. Those 16 projects received funding and are still ongoing. What we didn't want to do as a CAP entity was to supersede or to have our joint powers agreement in conflict with the process that had already been done. That's why those type of projects were excluded. There's also this overlying question about export of water out of our region. We have a regional board, and the regional board, I don't know of one conversation publicly or behind any closed doors that has included exporting water out of our region. We do have two members on our board, one from Luna County and one from the city of Deming, that of course are interested in the depletion of the existing of the members' aquifer, and I think that all of our members are worried about the security of our water in this region. Statewide, you see regional water plans and plans to be able to store water for future use. CAP entity doesn't have any other thoughts except for water security in our region the same. I hear consistently that we're going to export water, but the only people that I hear that from are from the opponents of any type of project on the Gila. Those are the only people that ever talk about the export of water. Everybody else talks about securing that water for our use here in our region, whether it's Grant County, Luna County, or downstream users in Hidalgo County. So, while there's a lot of misconceptions out there and a lot of talk about it. When you come to our meetings, I know we had Commissioner Billings come to one of our meetings for the first time yesterday. He was informed about things that you don't hear in the public, you don't see in the paper. You only get it from the conversations we have inside of our meetings. So I would encourage for the people to come to our meetings and listen to what's really going on. I was a planner for quite some time for Grant County. I know about how difficult it is to obtain monies for infrastructure projects, but I also know that the USDA sends back millions and millions of dollars, even from New Mexico, because they just don't have the projects, and it's difficult to get those projects in. The money is there if you go and you work for it. Priscilla knows that. She's the hardest worker that I know, and she knows how many benefits are out there. We just have to go get them. So, I would just wanted to come up and say, none of our board members talk about sending water anywhere. They just talk about what we got here and what the needs are here. The wells are going dry. People are having drilling the wells. The regional project is another well, but it also is going to deplete the aquifer further. There's no recharge. We all know that. That's what we're trying to do. With this reprimand project is recharge the system, use the water that we have to increase the supply. Thank you very much.
Further public input. Taffy? So this is another 2-for-1? That's all right.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share some information with you. My name is Taffy Arias. I am the CEO of Gila Regional Medical Center. And I just this is a two-prong statement that I do want to make. First of all, I want to let you all know that this morning, early in the morning, we were threatened by a patient who came into our emergency department, threatened our staff by coming back and shooting all of us, and left the hospital. We immediately went on a lockdown according to our procedures to protect our patients and our staff and our medical providers. But I do want to make this one statement. We immediately called the police department, who were so prompt in responding to our needs. They were able to find the gentleman and make sure that we were safe. And I am saying this to you because I want you to know that the security of our hospital and our medical providers is most important to us as we go through every venture of taking care of our population. And when I want to say this to you, not only as a CEO of a hospital, but also as a citizen of Silver City, I have been so impressed with our law enforcement in the county, and our sheriff's department, and our police department, and I want to publicly praise them and thank them for their tireless work and their commitment to our citizens. Secondly, I want you to know that I was aware about a few weeks ago that there was great controversy regarding the relationship between our EMS system and our fire department and rescue squads. I want you to know that I have met with Alex Brown. We have gone over a contract. There's some tweaking to go on with the contract. I have some questions myself about that, but I found Mr. Brown to be most approachable and very professional in our meeting and our gathering to communicate about what each other's needs were. I think that a contract will be shortly coming, and I am grateful for the opportunity to collaborate with this city on this issue. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And this is Jo Beth.
She doesn't act like she wants to talk. And I'm just shocked that you called the man that came to kill all the ER people a gentleman. That's over and above polite.
It's upbringing, sir. I'm from the South.
I have a little of that myself.
I was going to give the financial report. Is that okay at this time?
Sure.
Okay. Just a brief highlights of what we did at the hospital for the month of June. Admissions. Sorry, put my glasses on. We had 164 admissions. We had 3,948 outpatient visits, 1,083 ER visits, and 334 surgeries for the month. Gross patient revenue was $17.7 million. Net patient revenue, $5.6. Total expenses of $5.6. And total bottom line for the month was $332,000. Any questions on that?
I was wondering if it would be possible to get that in writing. Can be after the meeting would be fine, just email it.
Yes, sir.
It'd be a lot easier for me to absorb. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay. Further public input. Anybody want to follow that? Terry?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I'm Terry Timmy with Southwest New Mexico Audubon Society. We represent a number of people, over 200 in the four-county region of Southwest New Mexico, including Grant, Hidalgo, and Luna and Catron counties. I'm here today to talk to you about the amendment to the JPA that's on your list of agreements. And I'd like for you to consider that this is an agreement that's really sort of ahead of its time, and I think you need to take a little more time to review it and get more information about it. I know there's been a number of issues raised about it by both the public and commissioners, and it's a issue which is not time sensitive. The money that would be used for this is not threatened by the December 2019 deadline for using AWSA funds, because it would not use AWSA money. What I'd like for you to consider doing is tabling this and either using your capable legal staff, write a joint powers agreement amendment that allows you to have better checks and balances on how this interaction with Freeport-McMoRan will occur, or to write an amendment that allows you to actually secure water for Grant County through such some of the non-diversion alternatives that were woefully underfunded by the ISC. When they awarded the non-diversion alternatives, many of them only got 10% of what they asked for. And they're still struggling, just like the Grant County Water Commission has been struggling to get enough money to complete their projects. There is money available that could be used for those projects if the JPA was amended to allow that. So please consider tabling this motion and going back to the New Mexico CAP entity and tell them you want a new joint powers agreement that allows you to have more say in the matter. Thank you.
The lady right behind you had her hand up first. I'm sorry. But you can be next. And you can just leave the mic on.
The white one? Thank you. Thank you. And thank you, commissioners, for being here today, as well as all the citizens here. I would just go over briefly some points that were made in other meetings, just as a review so that we don't forget. And what's your name? My name is Rebecca Summer. I'm a hydrologist. I want to speak on two items. The first one is the joint agreement. So I'm just reviewing, and for me it's important to remember where we're going with this. The first is to consider the unintended consequences of sending 2 billion gallons of water out of the county and what that would make the county look like. And this includes vegetation, surface water drainage, which is connected to vegetation as well as wildlife as well as human beings and their domesticated animals. And it also includes near-surface groundwater. The second point, the amendment to joint powers would allow private water owners to reduce the water available here by selling it outside of the county. Number 3, from the very beginning, as was said earlier, the justification of the diversion project via the county commissioners was to keep water in Grant County and secure water for the county's future. Number 4, the amendment would open the door for Freeport, a global corporation, to transport its water in a pipeline constructed probably using public funds. And the 5th one to consider, the risk is very high in partnering with Freeport that the profit motive would take over and our Gila water could be sold and pumped. So in conclusion to that, what Terry just said is, I also agree that tabling it for further retrospection, inspection would be of value to all the citizens in our county. And the second item I want, just a short comment, and it's an amendment to the citizen that was reading from the USA Today on ATVs. And that is, from everything I've read, we will be guaranteed that vehicle insurance would go up. Thank you.
Thank you. State your name, please.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Sarah Boyette. I'm also with Southwestern New Mexico Audubon Society. And I do want to do two things. One is to refute what Mr. Gutierrez has said, or at least elaborate on his remarks. I distinctly recall at a CAP meeting, Mr. Domenici, the entity's attorney, and Howard Hutchinson using the word marketing the water. And I do believe that is something that should ring alarm bells in your mind. I also want to point out something that I think is not as generally well understood about the different types of water we're talking about. The AWASA water is controlled under the CUFA, the Consumptive Use and Forbearance Act. There are very stringent, specific guidelines for when that water can be taken, how much can be taken. On the other hand, Freeport-McMoran's senior water rights to adjudicated water have no such controls. Worst case scenario is that Freeport, possibly like their predecessor, Phelps Dodge, there are legal records showing that Phelps Dodge was indeed looking at having a pipeline built and exporting water. If Freeport chose to use their senior water rights, there would be no controls over how much and when they could take water. New Mexico is the only state in the U.S. without so-called environmental flows. Every other state has some mechanism for keeping minimum flows in a river. But in New Mexico, this is a worst-case scenario. But I think in contemplating a move that would allow the CAP entity to do whatever it wants at some point in the future, you really do need to think about the possibility of the dewatering of the Gila. So that said, I'm going to reiterate what Terry, who happens to also be my husband as well as a fellow Audubon officer, I'm going to reiterate what he said, but I'm going to make an adjustment, and that is, I would urge you to do 2 motions and 2 votes this morning. Number 1, vote to kill this proposed amendment as it is. Secondly, to propose drafting an amendment that reflects the wishes of Grant County. Bill Evans Lake lies totally in all the infrastructure within Grant County. So I think the Grant County Commission should have a much larger say in how any amendment gets drafted. I would very much like to see those checks and balances that Mr. Domenici spoke of yesterday put in writing. So once again, please defeat this motion, pass another one, and say Grant County would like to draft their own amendment to the JPA. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public input. Back to the room.
Good morning. My name's Ron Troy. I'm a Grant County citizen here, and thank you all for the opportunity to speak this morning. I'm up here with respect to the amendment to the JP agreement as well with the CAP entity. And I think Mr. Timmy said it best with the checks and balances. This is really a trust issue. And I have a lot of respect for the CAP board. They're in a difficult position. They've been charged with something that is against national trends. We're pulling dams out, we're pulling reservoirs out because we know what they do to these systems, the deleterious effects to the systems and we're currently doing just the opposite of that. We're building resiliency. Sustainability probably isn't even in the vocabulary anymore. It's resiliency. We're trying to keep our rivers colder. We're trying to keep the riparian areas healthier because we know for especially over-adjudicated systems, which this Gila River and the Colorado River Basin are, that is a necessity. If you want to keep the farms working from here to Arizona to California, that's what we need to do on a national level, and that is what we're doing. This is very contrary to the mission of the United States currently. NRCS is providing public funding to do exactly opposite of these things. And this, again, goes back to a trust issue. Until we diversify this CAP board, where I'm very glad Grant County, by the way, is on this, but it's composed of municipalities, it's composed of water users. And if you're on that board and you're asking for your personal project on the San Francisco River, for instance, to be funded, it's pretty tough to come to somebody in the Gila River and say yours can't be. So again, it goes back to that checks and balances and that trust. TNC has been doing this kind of work on a watershed basis, and this is what we should be looking at, is a watershed. And they've been doing that for 60 years. They're a large owner in the Gila Valley. They're not on this board. They've got tons of experience in contracting, which we're getting sued for. I mean, if you just look at what the CAP entity's experience has been, we're racing in last minute, where we've got, how many engineers now are we thinking of hiring? Because we've waited, 10, 12 years, and now it's like we're coming down to this deadline. And I see everything being driven by greed. Grab this water before it gets to Arizona, which I don't think makes any sense. And so until we really think about what we're doing, and we have a vision here, and a really defined vision for the public to get their heads wrapped around this, I think to expand the purview of this board would be a huge mistake. Whether it's just expanding it to Bill Evans Lake and the Freeport infrastructure, or whether it's expanding it to southern New Mexico, we need an entirely different board that the public can trust, that has not a history of getting us into lawsuits currently, and is sending us on that track for the future. There are water rights here that are going to be sent to them. They're not a water right holder in this system. I live in the Hondo Valley, and this is another issue, I think, a big issue. The CAP entity trusts the state engineers and the Interstate Stream Commission. I think they're naive in that. I lived in the Hondo Valley. The last couple of years I've been doing farm and ranch protection over in this area. But we are battling the state engineers over there because they continually put water. Take our water from the valley. My water rights date back to 1856, and I've been struggling with the state engineers for 15 years because they keep transferring water to the pipelines. They keep expanding over to Alamogordo, over to the golf courses in Ruidoso, the sewer treatment plant. I fight 5 attorneys constantly with the state engineers just trying to protect my water right. And it's a losing battle. They might, one water right goes up, the next year another water right. And when your neighbors start selling these water rights to these interests, and and you have no control over it because of the money that you're paying their attorneys to fight you. It's really frustrating. And I think if this CAP entity had gone through this experience that I've been going through over there, and the people in Clovis, where the state engineers just had recently issued water rights in the Ogallala that are now depleting that, the aquifer to a point where now 40 wells have dried up. And those are new water rights. And why the state engineer is charged with not impairing our water rights when they issue new water rights or transfer others, and they continue to do this. It's a huge battle, and a huge battle that I guarantee you the farmers and the folks around here don't want. Until there's a vision to conserve water, to do some things, to pull some partners in, like NRCS, like TNC, and whatnot, I would really encourage you to send a message that we don't want to continue spending money on attorneys and engineers and a trend that is not the national trend. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public input? Yes, ma'am. Yes.
My name is Claudia Elferdink. I have lived in Silver City only 3 years, and I realize in Silver City that makes me not very important. But I would like to share the experience I've had for the last 40 years. I have lived in another watershed, the Connecticut River watershed, and I have watched how the river's water has been pressured to be diverted for more than 40 years. In fact, longer ago than that, a large subsystem within the Connecticut River system was diverted to a huge reservoir, the Quabbin Reservoir, to feed the people of Boston. And once those pipelines are built, they don't go unused. And that huge diversion meant the closing down of 3 towns, which were flooded in order to make that reservoir. Now, even with all that water going to Boston, there continues to be pressure to take more water out of the Connecticut River. And gladly, we have succeeded in not building the pipes to allow that to happen. But I can say that even though I'm new to Silver City, that my grandchildren were born here, my children live here, and I want to see them have a sustainable water system that allows them to thrive here. And I urge you to vote against any measure that allows any form of diversion of the Gila water outside of our county. As county commissioners, I believe you have the responsibility to protect the citizens and to protect the water of this county. Thank you.
Thank you. Further public input? Mr. Assessor?
Mr. Chairman, board members, a message was sent today, and my office have talked about this for the last year and a half, and the threat that happened there at the hospital. I'm so glad Taffy brought that up. I hope that you guys can have some kind of focus here in this building for the security also. We're in very interesting times here in this world, and I just hope that you guys can think about that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Further public input? Seeing none, Steve. Sorry.
Mr. Chairman, commissioners, and members of the audience, I've hesitated to say anything about this water situation, but I think I need to speak up. Having personal contact and knowledge of situations, a former CAP, I'm not sure if he's even on the CAP entity anymore, but a former Luna County commissioner, I approached him on his turf because I happened to be in Deming purchasing some produce. He happens to be related to the produce people. And I told him, I said, you know, my understanding is that Deming doesn't need any water. Luna County doesn't need any water. We used to make a joke in high school flush the toilet, Demi needs the water. And to us, because they always used to advertise 99% pure water. And we said, well, we're providing you that water. Anyway, I asked the gentleman, I said, why are you guys wanting more water? He says, we don't want water. The only reason we want water is so we can sell it to Doña Ana. I said, as you guys will go dump that water into the pipeline and let it free flow, because that aquifer flows from Hurley down to our water through Members Valley. All of that water just goes down there. He says, and then every penny, every drop of water that we get from that process, we can turn around and sell on our eastern border to Doña Ana County. And Doña Ana County is hurting for water. And I said, well, we have to take care of our own. And I'm sure that's what you're doing as well. You're trying to take care of your own. But don't hurt us to help somebody else. But he thought he had a profit to make. I approached Mr. Gutierrez with that information one time after one of the CAP entity meetings. He said, well, it doesn't matter because they can't sell it for any more money. They'll have to pay the CAP entity whatever amount they're going to sell it for, so they're not going to be making any profit. So it would not give them an incentive to sell water. So, I don't know that there would be or wouldn't be an incentive. I've tried to stay out of that whole discussion, but with this new information, there'd be other water rights that would be available to sell or whatever. It makes it sound like, and I do go along with most of these people saying, you know what? We need to not allow the CAP entity to have that authority, to be the water czars that can do whatever they want with the water, because that, to me, that's not protecting our water rights. So.
Thank you, sir. Further public input? Going once, twice, all right, we're moving on. Next item on the agenda is minutes. I'd take a motion to approve all three of those.
That's open. Second.
So there's a motion and a second to approve July 18th work session minutes, the July 20th regular meeting minutes, the July 25th special meeting minutes. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Financial reports. Randy, can you go through the financial report for us?
In your packet, you do have an expenditure report, period ending August 9th, for a total of $2,399,213.60. Of that is the accounts payable total, which is $1,951,816.85, and including two payrolls and an academic incentive totaling $447,396.75. Would you like me to go over the highlighted expenses, or are you okay with the recap?
I don't think we need to do it twice. Don't need to do it twice. We're good. Can I get a motion to approve the expenses? So moved. Second. There's a motion and a second to approve the expenditure report for August 9th, 2017. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Thanks for the expedition there, Commissioner Brown. New business. Approve or disapprove a proclamation declaring August 13th, 2017 through August 19th, 2017 as National Health Center Week. Bernadette, would you read that for us?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners of the Board. It is. Hopefully my reading skills will be okay. Whereas for over 50 years, community health centers have provided high-quality, affordable health care in our nation's underserved communities, demonstrating that locally governed health care can improve lives while lowering costs. Whereas what began as a small demonstration project in 2 states has grown into the country's largest primary care network, with health centers now serving as a health care home for over 24 million Americans.
through more than 9,000 delivery sites across the nation. 1 in every 14 people living in the United States looks to a community health center for their care. Whereas Hidalgo Medical Services, which was started in Hidalgo County in 1995 and now provides high-quality, cost-effective, and accessible primary and preventive care to the communities of both Hidalgo and Grant counties, and includes integrated medical, dental, behavioral health, family support, and pharmacy services to all individuals regardless of insurance status or ability to pay. Whereas health centers are located in medically underserved areas and locally controlled by patient majority boards, ensuring that each health center always remains responsive to the needs of the specific community it serves. Whereas health centers are locally owned and operated small businesses that serve as critical economic engines, helping to power local economies by generating billions of dollars in combined economic impact and creating jobs in some of the country's most economically deprived communities. Whereas health centers nationally employ nearly 170,000 people, including more than 11,200 physicians and more than 9,000 nurse practitioners, physician assistants, and certified nurse midwives, who work as part of the multidisciplinary clinical teams designed to treat the whole patient. Whereas the health center model continues to prove an effective means of reducing healthcare disparities and overcoming barriers to healthcare access, including geography, income, and insurance status, and in doing so improves healthcare outcomes and reduces healthcare system costs. Whereas health centers save the entire health system approximately $24 billion annually by managing chronic conditions and keeping patients out of costlier health care settings like hospital emergency rooms. Whereas the demand for health centers continues to outpace growth and expansion of health centers' capacity and reach will be essential to meet the needs of these new patients, as existing health centers are already at capacity and many communities lack primary care services at all. Whereas National Health Center Week offers the opportunity to recognize America's community health centers, such as Hidalgo Medical Services and their dedicated staff, board members, and all those responsible for their continued success and growth. During this National Health Center Week, we celebrate the legacy of America's community health centers and their vital role in shaping the future of America's healthcare system. Now, therefore, we, the Commissioners of Grant County, do hereby proclaim August 13th through August 19th, 2017 as National Health Center Week. We encourage every resident of Grant County to visit Hidalgo Medical Services to celebrate the important partnership between America's community health centers and the communities they serve.
Bernadette. So I know we have Dan in the audience. Do you have anything to say, Dan, before we vote on this?
Good morning, Commissioner, County Manager, and Grant County citizens. Thank you very much for the opportunity to come and, again, advocate for approval of this proclamation proclaiming August 13th through 19th National Health Center Week. We've been able to do that in Hidalgo County and the city of Lordsburg, government officials, and as well as the town of Silver City, and that's very much appreciated. We began the celebration on Monday. We had an event in Lordsburg in Hidalgo County at our clinic there with great success, and then we also followed that up with some activities at our CHC here in Silver City, and we also had an event Monday night, and we had Representative Steve Pierce present, who shared his support, as well as two video messages from Senator Tom Udall and Senator Martin Heinrich, as well as written letters of support from Representative Ben Ray Lujan and Representative Michelle Grissom, as well as State Representative Rebecca Dow. We also had a great turnout with local government officials, and I want to thank those county commissioners who were able to join us on Monday night. And just with a final note, without community health centers like Hidalgo Medical Services, citizens of Lordburg and Hidalgo County would not have access to health care at all. Or somebody else would be coming in there to bring those services locally, which may not be as comprehensive. And our ability to expand services into Grant County continues to support our financial viability and support to provide those services in Hidalgo County. Citizens within Grant County and Hidalgo County can access primary care services within 30 minutes because of this system. And as mentioned in the proclamation, we definitely bring a lot of financial support, federal funding, into our communities because of our community health center status. And my last comment is I'm really proud of the partnerships that we're attempting to develop with Ms. Taffy Arias and GRMC, as well as the grant, or it's called the HELA IPA, Independent Physicians Association. So we're looking forward to those partnerships so we can enhance healthcare in Grant County and Hidalgo County. And I just again want to thank you for your support. Thank you.
Can I get a motion to approve the proclamation? Yes.
May I make the motion to approve the proclamation declaring August 13th, 2017 through August 19th, 2017 as National Healthcare Week.
Now, second. A motion and a second. Is there any discussion on that?
National Health Center Week, I think that we have it right there.
Thank you. National
We're all for health care, but this is about those centers.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. So, Dan, can you come up and we'll present this to you as soon as we get it signed? I think your spot's small. See, last year I had from that line to this line to spread.
And actually, now I'm taking up all of it. I'm taking advantage. I had that.
It's really this little corner cubby hole that's tough, right, Billy?
What's that?
This little corner cubby hole.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm going to take that next year. Okay, next item on the agenda is to approve or disapprove the Grant County Veterans Memorial Acoustic and Audiovisual System.
Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the Grant County Veterans Memorial Acoustic and Audiovisual System.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
There's a second. Any discussion?
I do have a point that I would like to make. I would just like it to be clear to the public that the funds to provide this equipment, much-needed equipment to the Grant County Conference Center comes from the tax and bond that was approved to do this work, the convention center work, and that the funds cannot be used for anything else.
That's true. They are non-reoccurring funds.
Non-reoccurring.
Anybody else?
Okay.
But you can third it.
I will second her comments in that case.
Further discussion. Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. We're skipping G. On the request of the manager, so we'll move to H. Approve or approve agreement number A1725, the amended joint powers agreement of the New Mexico CAP entity. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chairman, for conversation and deeper comments, I would like to make the motion that we approve the agreement number A17-25. I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve A1725, so we'll stand for discussion. You want to start?
Sure. I'll be remarkably brief, I suspect. First, I want to thank Mr. Gutierrez for coming. There's only one way that we can understand each other, and that's to dialogue. So thank you very much for doing that. I also want to make clear, since you didn't mention it, that I've been coming to CAP meetings for a couple of years now. I've only missed one this year, and when I miss them, I'm able to see them on video. So I have been following it very closely. I don't consider myself ill-informed. I think there's some question as to whether the CAP entity or any of its members actually intend to sell water elsewhere. I don't claim to know that they do. I find it highly plausible that they don't. What I do know is that water has consistently flowed uphill to money in the West, and that the best of intentions are as nothing compared to the need for water and the amounts of money available to buy water. So that even if it is not the CAP entity's intention to sell water out of this region, if we build the infrastructure, we're certainly opening the possibility that that will happen. And that's my biggest concern. The only other comment that I have, because you've heard me talk quite a bit about this, is that the prudent way to have proceeded with this, I believe, would have been to authorize investigation of the possibility of using Freeport infrastructure, and not to simultaneously authorize the use of that infrastructure, the acquisition of that water, and the management of that water. I would still oppose this amendment as mission creep, even if it just authorized investigation. But at least I would understand and feel that the decision was a rational one to proceed with that, because investigation is pretty much always good. When we are also authorizing an actual expenditure of resources, an actual acquisition of water and infrastructure, without knowing what that's going to look like, I think that's imprudent. And I would urge us to reject this amendment and to request one, if that is our interest, that just authorizes investigation. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion?
So, as you might imagine, I would have a lot of comment to make, but I think most of the audience members and Mr. Brown has handled most of that for me in a more than adequate way. I have two comments. The first one is I'd like to take this idea of separating water from land out of the abstract and talk about what it really is. And I would bring your attention to the image on the screen, which I talked last time in the July meeting about where I'm from and what happened when water was separated from land. And this image was taken 2 years ago, about 20 miles east of where I went to high school. And this is what happens when farmers don't have any water left to grow, and the land becomes dry and fallow. And I have a couple more images. Bernadette, if you would go to the next one, this is in the same area where there is no water left to grow produce. The next two are groundwater subsidence areas. This one is in Queen Creek, Arizona, and the next one is in Cochise County, Arizona. So this is what happens when you separate water from land. And I think what that goes to is this idea that our stated goal for this entire process has been to keep the water in Grant County. And I think the important thing to note is that regardless of what Mr. Gutierrez says, and I do appreciate that he was here today to share his comments with us, but regardless of what he says or what the CAP entity says, what matters is what is in writing. And what is in writing is in direct opposition to what Mr. Gutierrez says he believes and the CAP entity believes. It is our responsibility as elected officials to provide good stewardship to public monies. And approving this agreement is not good stewardship of public money. I would be in favor. I am opposed to this amendment, although I would be in favor of re-examining the issue in a different form. Thank you.
Further comment? Discussion?
I remember last year poking a little fun at the press reporter Ben Fisher, because every time he mentioned in the press something about the CAP entity or diversion or whatever, he said the controversial CAP entity or whatever. And so I'll take that back now, Ben. This is a controversial issue, and it's also complicated, as I have learned. There's lots of misinformation, and that's coming from both sides, I will admit. And even this morning in this meeting, there's more misinformation than I can address. However, there was some good information. I'm not saying that people are lying. I think they're, and me included, are sometimes just misinformed from a source that we think knows the facts. And then I've even passed some of this on. I think I withdrew some of my comments because I found out some of the things I was passing on I took as fact because I thought they came from a reliable source, and they proved not to be a fact at all. So urge caution with that. Anyhow, even this morning, some misinformation has been given. I do want to say that I've been assured by the county attorney that there was some early steps taken to limit the financial obligations of Grant County here. And the money we're talking about is public funds, but it's controlled by the ISC. Also want to make sure you understand that yesterday was not the first CAP entity meeting that I attended. It was the first time I sat in. Mr. Ramos left the meeting, saw me in the audience, and asked me to sit in for him. But it wasn't the first time I'd been at a CAP entity meeting. I won't necessarily, by any means, celebrate this amended JPA as a victory in any way. I'm cautious and hesitant, as you might know. I hope that it might someday prove to be a step in the right direction, as it'll lead to, as it might hopefully lead to a way to store water for beneficial use. Some residents continue to ask, and I've gotten a lot of good information and input from many citizens, and I appreciate that. And I didn't respond to it all, but I want you to know I read it all. Some residents are continuing to ask that Grant County withdraw from the New Mexico CAP entity. And I understand by signing this JPA, not signing the JPA, we would not be withdrawing, but I can't support and I don't support withdrawing because we'd give up our seat at the table. The entity would still exist, but without any voice from Grant County, and I think the CAP definitely needs our voice and our input. Some have suggested, and me included even as recently as day before yesterday, that we delay signing this amended JP until we get some guarantees. I've decided not to hold the CAP entity hostage, but rather to allow the director and the new engineers to explore options for the Bill Evans infrastructure if Freeport is even willing. And it's important that we, the members of the CAP entity, monitor this closely. And There, as was pointed out yesterday, there is a lot of oversight. They can do nothing without permission, without the ISC signing on to this. I understand that there's some questions about the ISC, but it is a government body that's in place, and it will change probably as over time, as especially as governors change. It's important. Okay, sorry. I bet my time's about up. Huh?
We have no time left. You said okay, we need to talk about
I think it's important that we monitor this closely, because there's no need to waste more money with engineering and legal costs if Freeport's not willing, or if there's no viable plan. So as you turn, if I was allowed to have a voice on the CAP entity, and I think the voices on the CAP entity need to watch and monitor, trust, and verify that as we're moving forward with this, we're not turning the engineers and the attorneys loose on some spending spree that will never amount to beneficial use. It's important for me to note that, to the best of my knowledge, and I have some knowledge concerning that Freeport did not ask for this, and I think I know it's safe for me to say that they're even cautious that maybe their name's been thrown around more than they would appreciate about their interest in that. Not from, and please understand, not from what you might call the environmental side, but from people who are saying that, who might be favorable to Freeport and are saying Freeport wants this. I think it's, I know it's safe to say that Freeport did not ask for this. They don't want to divest themselves of their water rights. They've spent decades obtaining water rights, and as long as there's a future for mining in Grant County, they're going to want to hold on to those. There is another concern, and I was told that the Bill Evans storage could only be used for one purpose, and that would be to bring water over the divide. I found out in the last week and even yesterday that this isn't necessarily the case. As we learned in the meeting, they're talking about Red Rock and Verdon being downriver from that and being able to benefit from the storage, but possibly benefit from the storage. But also, there's several farms, quite a few farms upriver, because of the elevation of Bill Evans, that might benefit from this storage. And I was told, as far up as Bear Creek, I don't know that to be a fact, but I think that's one of the first things that the engineers would hopefully look at. That would be a quick, easy, inexpensive view to see how far up gravity flow could happen from the Bill Evans infrastructure. Again, Grant County needs to keep its seat at the table with the other local entities on the CAP. And I think they need, and I would encourage them to look at some of the smaller projects that we've talked about recently. And if the CAP isn't willing to go to the Interstate Stream Commission, I think Grant County needs to look at going to the Interstate Stream Commission directly to fund some of these projects. And if the current Interstate Stream Commission is not willing, like I said, they will change over time. I want to point out that Arizona Water Settlements Act water, I think this has been pointed out already earlier, but $2.1 million of that went to the Grant County Regional Water Project. Another sizable sum went to a project with the irrigators in Gila Valley, and as Mr. Gutierrez pointed out, a number of other projects have been funded from this money. I think if we're friendly to farming in the Gila Valley, that will also protect our water. And there's been a lot of discussion. He said I have no time limit, but I'm going to wrap this up. There's been a lot of discussion about the last free-flowing river, and I just want to point out that, and again, using information that I've been given, it seems to me that there's somewhere between 11 and 20 diversions already on the Gila River. in the state of New Mexico before it gets to Arizona. Somebody needs to count those up, but I've seen quite a few of them. And a lot of these have beneficial use and have for years. And there's a lot of work that needs to be, this is a local project that I'd like to see considered for funding. I was impressed with the concept yesterday presented about the local farm storage ponds, not necessarily the scale or the dollar amount, but hopefully some work can be done on that, and some explaining was done to that on that to me as well. That was the maximum. Just about running out of notes, so that's good for y'all. I think that's pretty well it. I just do want to say one more thing, unrelated to the CAP, but related, and that is, I appreciate the discussion that has been almost 100% rational, well thought out comments, and it's really allowed me to think about what so many people are saying rather than the one or two comments like, you're going to burn in hell and that kind of stuff. Because those, for a novice politician like me, those are such a distraction that I can't. It's really good to get the well thought out, well-educated comments, and I appreciate it, and thank you for those. And I'm going to, I've been cautioned twice by two people sitting up here about what I talked about earlier, and that's relaying things that you hear that you believe to be true, and you take the person's word. Where I come from, when people say it, you usually can depend on it. And so I've realized in this political arena that's not necessarily the case, and a couple of people have cautioned me yesterday. You can't, just because someone says it, you might think they look like they know what they're talking about. But you got to check your facts, and I hope to do that going forward. I urge anybody else to, because when we give false information, it just sends us on a tangent wild goose chase. So it's not beneficial. Thank you.
Commissioner, you have anything?
Yes, sir, I sure do. First of all, thank you all for coming, and there's been some great conversation. You just mentioned false information. It's really something. I've been involved in politics or in the political arena for 20 years, and I've been a public servant for, I say, 28 because I was in the military. And I've always done my best to represent the people that got me into office, and I've been a lifetime resident of Grant County, and I feel that I always keep Grant County in mind when I make decisions. That being said, I've attended different meetings in the past almost 7 years that I've been a county commissioner. I attended a meeting in Bayard one time that was a Save the Nun meeting. And, I went to that meeting, and the same people that are here saying that we have too much water, don't need to expand our horizons and keeping water here, or expand our horizons and make water more available for us here, are the same people that told me that we didn't have enough water when it came to the Nili Nun and the Freeport-McMoRan. So at that meeting, I really would listen to what these people had to say, because they're at every single meeting opposing everything that we try to stand for. But at that point, I said, I'm not being told the truth here. Do we have enough water, or do we not have enough water? So I do the best I can to listen to every situation that's out there to make a decision. I do admire the people that stay involved. I do admire the people that come to our meetings and give us public comment. But you got to also realize that some of these people are being paid to be here. They're being paid. They're not here as volunteers like some of you people are. They're being paid to come in here and give the opinion that their groups represent. We've been fought on the Wolf. We've been fought on the water. We've been fought on public roads. Come on. I've lived here my whole life. I want to do what's best for my people here in Grant County. I've only heard, I've actually been involved in the water situation since when I used to represent Hurley on the town council. And since then, I've never heard anyone say that we wanted this water to go to Luna, I'm sorry, not Luna, Doñana, or to Texas. I never heard that until three and a half years ago, when John Arthur Smith told us as county elected officials in Santa Fe that we better do something with that money and that water, or he will make sure that water goes to Doñana. That is the reason why we've been working so hard to try to get something done. That is the reason why we've been working so hard to utilize that money and do something for our people here in Grant County. Last Thursday, I delivered my son away to college. And it broke my heart. I'll be dead honest with you. It broke my heart to the fullest. And deep in my mind, I said, when he's done with that engineering degree, which I hope he gets, is he going to be able to come back to Grant County? Is he going to be able to come back and make a living here? Because he's one of the main reasons I do what I do. And if we do not utilize these monies and create an infrastructure here, he might not be able to come back to Grant County. And I want it to be a choice for him to leave if he wants to leave, but I also want him to be able to raise a family and enjoy Grant County the way I have my whole life. I've been very fortunate. I've been super fortunate. Now, the second time I've heard this, and I say this because I need to put it out there, but I don't want to cause argument. But we had our treasurer just state that he spoke to a very good friend of mine and stated that their goal in Luna County was to transport that water to Doñana. I really felt something when he said that, so I immediately texted him. Okay? Let me read to you what he just told me. Absolutely not. I wouldn't do such a stupid thing. Now, if our treasurer and him want to argue about that, then that's fine. But there's always two sides to every story. And when we sit up here on this platform, we're doing the best thing we can to represent our county, our people. And if I wanted to fill this house up with people that agree with my views, it'd be full every time. I admire the people that come and challenge us all the time, and I admire their followers, and I admire that they're able to bring people in and give us their opinions. But remember, our government, we live in a republic, and I am charged and elected in a democratic process to represent the people of Grant County. And I am going to do everything I can to create a future infrastructure for our people in southwest New Mexico. That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Anybody have anything else to say? Okay, there's a motion to approve A1725 that's been properly seconded. I've asked for discussion again. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Against? Nay. 3-2. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is to approve or disapprove agreement number A1726, Memorandum of Understanding with Western New Mexico University for the Grant County Veterans Memorial Business and Conference Center sign. Anybody have a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve agreement number A17-26.
Is there a second?
Second.
There's a motion and a second to approve A1726. Is there any discussion on the motion?
Some comments.
Sure.
I would like to make the comment that this also, the expenditure for this falls under the same funding that the improvements to the inside of the building make. with the addition that Western New Mexico University is going to pay for half the sign. These funds are coming from, non-reoccurring sources.
Non-reoccurring.
That are specifically designed to be spent on the conference center.
Further discussion?
Not specifically on the conference center, but specifically on
the three projects.
The three construction projects.
Which include the conference center.
Right, okay,
yes.
thank you.
Thank you for that clarification.
Further discussion? There's a motion and a second to approve A1726. We've asked for discussion. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Nays? None? Motion passes. Approve or disapprove agreement number A1727, a grant assessment with the Department of Finance and Administration, Local Government Division, State of New Mexico for Enhanced 911 Act program.
I'd like to move that the Commission approve agreement A1727 for what we know as the reverse 911. Am I correct? No, this is...
That's it.
I'm confusing this with the code red.
Right, yeah, that's right, yeah.
For the Enhanced 911 Act. I still would like to make that motion.
Thank you, Commissioner.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve A1727. Any discussion? Do you want to say something? You can if you want to. You good? Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Approve, disapprove agreement number A1728. Agreement with Summit Food Service LLC for the amendment number 5 to the prisoner food service contract. This was discussed on Tuesday, and Mike talked about it also. So, can I get a motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion that we approve the agreement number A-17-28.
There's a motion and a second to approve A1728. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Approve or disapprove agreement number A1729, agreement with the Southwest New Mexico Council of Governments to provide services for Grant County.
I'll make a motion to approve agreement number A17-29.
I second.
There's a motion and a second to approve A1729. Is Priscilla, did you want to say something on that, or?
I'd like to say something because she's walking. Priscilla, we'd like to thank you for everything you do for us. People need to realize that multi-millions of dollars have been brought to this community through the Council of Governments and through your help, and we really do appreciate what you do for Grant County and its entities.
I second the motion. Would you like Priscilla?
Thank you very much, good morning, Commissioners and staff, and I couldn't be more proud and privileged in working with my local governments in the Southwest region and have had many opportunities to resolve immediate issues. And this is our annual agreement, and all I really wanted to say was thank you for always allowing me and trusting me to do my work to be able to improve the quality of life of the residents in this county and the other counties that I serve. So I look forward to working with you another year, and we continue to struggle as just everyone else does with budget constraints, but we always persevere. So thank you, and if there's any specific questions that I can answer, I'd be happy to. And just to let you know, I am celebrating my 30 years working with the Council of Governments, and I haven't aged a bit, right?
Just a newcomer.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We've got to guarantee at least 10 more. Come on.
I could have retired 5 years ago, but I'm still here. So I'm the old shoe.
Okay. Further discussion?
Go ahead.
I just want to say thanks to the second what has already been said. Thank you.
So I just want to make the point that it isn't just local governments that Priscilla and McCog assists. I would echo what has been said, that as a local government, we do sincerely appreciate all of your efforts. But I would also say that Priscilla has been invaluable to the nonprofit community in this area as well. And that, specifically, I will mention that when I was the executive director of the Volunteer Center and trying to get the Commons built, I had been up against a barrier that I could not go around, get under, go above, or otherwise get from point A to point B, and Priscilla made it happen. So your work is invaluable in this community, and we really appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. 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 Motion passes. Thanks, Priscilla. All right, now we can get to the approve or disapprove agreement number A1730, Memorandum of Understanding for Code Red Emergency Notification Services.
Before, I'll move that we approve agreement A1730 for what is more commonly known as reverse 911.
I'll second that. I thought it was going. Okay, comments? Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Approve or disapprove agreement number A1731, consent agreement to finance and purchase the following motor graders through Caterpillar Financial Services Corporation. Can I get a motion?
I move.
Second. Motion is second to approve. Is there any discussion? So I do. What this is every 5 years, we trade in old equipment, we get new equipment, try to keep our payments as close to the same as they were. This is not reoccurring funding. This is not funding that can be used for raises. I know there's some talk out there that said that. It comes right along with the two items that the items, I should say, that Commissioner Billings and Commissioner Ramos talked about, people saying things that they didn't know anything about. So, further discussion?
Yeah, since this looks like a purchase of 6 motor graders, would you explain as quick as you can why it's not a purchase of 6 motor graders?
Sure, I'll look into it. It's a two-part process. So we are purchasing them and then in turn, basically selling them back and financing them through Caterpillar Financial Services. So they're purchased through Wagner, financed through Caterpillar Financial.
So if I understand correctly, our lease is up, we're going to purchase them, sell them back, and release new.
That's the simplest way that I can explain it. So it's a two-part process, and it's exactly like we've done for the last, I believe, 10 years here. And we're trading in the old ones.
Yeah, I just wanted to, it just appears that we're spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on 6 new motor graders, and I just want the public to know that's not the case. It's just a release.
I think the other clarification that's important in this conversation is that what this process allows us to do is our motor graders are always under warranty.
Sure. So I have a clarifying question. What is the source of funding for these payments?
It is in our vehicle replacement program that we allocate monies to for this sole purpose.
So I have zero objection to it. It's an essential county function as I see it. But I'm not quite sure that it's non-recurring. I think that funding could actually be used for something else, just to make sure my understanding is correct.
If you chose to allow the blades to deteriorate.
Right.
And not that essential function.
Right. Just in the interest of having the facts out there.
Okay.
That's absolutely not my intention. I think this, like I said, is an essential county function. So, I support.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. All right, approve or disapprove agreement number A1732 to purchase a backhoe from Wagner Caterpillar. This is a straight purchase to purchase a backhoe that was stolen from us. The sources of funding from that are the repurchase of equipment and about $60-something thousand in insurance money.
Motion that we approve the purchase that's in agreement A1732.
I second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve A1732. Any discussion?
I want to reiterate what we were told on Tuesday, that these are now coming with GPS trackers.
Earl's sneaking out.
Yeah, I see that. Okay, get the thumbs up.
That means if we can find them before they get across the border, that's right.
It was okay, but we were trying to make that happen. I just want to make clear that that is happening.
And that actually it will ping Earlstone if it is started or moved after hours.
I thought it was funny because everybody said, they would come and ask me, well, did they leave the keys in it? I'm like, everybody's got a cat key. They're exactly the same for every cat piece of equipment in America.
Basically, screwdriver word.
Yeah, screwdriver will work, yeah. It will, but it'll ping your own phone. So, any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Approve or disapprove resolution R-1735, adopting infrastructure capital improvement plan for Grant County. It's item P. There may be some amendments to that, I don't know.
I'd like to move that we approve resolution number R-1735, adopting an infrastructure capital improvement plan for Grant County.
I'll second that.
There's a motion and a second to approve the capital improvement plan for Grant County. Is there any discussion on that motion?
Yes, so are we moving the water storage facility to number 4, like we had discussed?
And not at this time, it is not, but if you would like to make an amendment...
I would like to request an amendment.
We'll just make a motion to amend.
I'll make a motion to amend the motion to include Grant County the Grant County water storage facility in the number 4 spot.
So we would bump administration parking lot down to 5, or Corey Camino's bus down to 5?
6.
One of those others, yeah. Which one, where are you leaving that?
I think we need to leave the Corey Camino's passenger bus in the top 5.
So what we're doing is trading the parking lot for the water storage facility. Is that close to correct? Because if you're under 5, it doesn't matter.
Is that okay?
Okay. I'll second the amendment. Any discussion on the amendment itself?
For clarification, there was some discussion on Tuesday of how much of the water storage facility we are listing for 2019 and how much for 2020. Can I get clear on that? Are we leaving it exactly as it is here? Because I thought we decided the $750,000 would set off some red flags.
Well, I think what we usually do is just go and ask for an amount, not necessarily saying that we're going to get it. Out of that $750,000, if we get $50,000, we're happy with it because it at least gives us some money to go ahead and...
And it includes all sources of funds that you would utilize for that.
Yeah, so we can utilize that monies and also go after others for those same projects.
You're identifying that you need $750,000 in 2020, so that might be USDA funds, it might be...
In 2019? In
2019, sorry.
No, I'm new to this, so I want to make sure I understand.
Yeah, as I tried to explain on Tuesday, that it's all different funding sources.
Sure.
So there's another sheet that goes along with this that identifies local funds, federal funds, state funds that would total that amount.
And in that case, if that's how we present it, do we get the capital outlay funding only on the condition that we get the other funding we identify?
No, that's
there's not
right.
a required match.
For capital outlay funding, no, usually not. But you have to, and that's when you get into answering all of the questions about how you're going to phase this project and how you have to be able to demonstrate to them that you can utilize their capital outlay funds to move on to the next phase or complete a phase either with or without other funds.
So on the second page of all that explanatory stuff, there would theoretically be something in there that if we got $50,000 of capital outlay, we could phase a $50,000 portion of the $750,000.
You can include that, yes.
Further discussion on the amendment?
And maybe I need to ask Priscilla this. We can leverage these monies to go after others, correct? Okay, and that's the main reason why we we go after as much as we can and try and leverage our monies to go ahead and create more to complete projects.
So Commissioners and staff, if I may just kind of give you how the ICIP process has changed over the years. So just because of the declining dollar amount within the capital outlay itself, I think the most important thing to remember when developing your capital improvement planning process is that in your top 5, that you put any potential project that you could be seeking capital outlay dollars for. That's the most important, because as we go through the prospector process through Grant County, is that if we are going to submit a capital outlay request at that point of the legislative session in 2018, we should have something that we could move forward for in the 2018 session. So kind of what I look at is, Charlene is absolutely correct. So we have the ability within the capital improvement plan to be able to list other funding sources. So whenever we're actually looking at capital request, we're going to put in the capital request for that, whatever we feel is a specified amount. We're going to take a lot of things into consideration. We're going to look at what other funding sources are available. We're going to look at the amount of money that the legislators could potentially receive. And so also that you have the ability to be able to modify this ICIP in the following year should dollar amounts change. So there's been a lot of changes, and just understand that the ICIP is really a planning tool and it's not a funding tool. So if you choose to look at different sources for that specific project, then you have all the ability. It's just to remember that these are some of the processes, and then you're looking at what are some priorities for you as a county for 2019 moving forward to the next 5-year period. So yes, you can use capital outlay dollars to leverage other dollars, as you can use other dollars to leverage. You just cannot you cannot match federal with federal and state with state. So you have to find the origin of the funds. Does that help?
Yes,
ma'am. Thank you.
Further discussion? On the amendment.
One, just following up on what Priscilla just told us, I'd like to have some understanding of how much capital outlay we would be asking for from within the $750,000. What do we think is coming, or do we have a sense at this point?
No, I don't.
I know you think that there won't be any available. Is that what you're shaking your head?
Yeah.
Right, and I assume the same. I guess, so I understand this project and what we're moving up. Let's say there were plenty. This was one of those years that oil and gas was doing well. What do you think we'd be asking for from the state capital outlay fund?
When things were really great, we could usually depend on, really great, we were getting $1 million, $1.2 million. In my first couple of years as a commissioner, we were getting $500,000. The last few years,
Yeah, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Brown, the average that I've been seeing around the 4 county areas, probably 100,000 is kind of the average. I think the highest I've seen might have been 150, and if extremely lucky, maybe 200. But I think the average is really around 100,000 with just the budget shortfall.
Okay, so there's some sense that this is a largely symbolic action. Is that correct?
Well, I think the discussion we had on Tuesday was that Santa Clara is almost complete with their study for engineering and surveying, correct? When it comes to the Twin Sister Creek project?
I'm sorry, Dave, I'm not familiar with that project to know exactly where they are in that process.
Well, I spoke with Mayor Bausch yesterday, and he said they're almost complete. So knowing that, I really feel that we kind of need to move forward on this so that we can go ahead and work on the MOUs and anything we need to so that we can approach ISC and hopefully get the remainder of the monies that we haven't been able to get or that we don't have at this point.
I think that should go directly to ISC.
So I do have a second question, which is a process question, and therefore it's probably more for Priscilla and maybe Misha, who's moving strategically. And that's that I've been involved in citizen input processes in which we make recommendations to a governing body, and then the governing body changes what we recommended. And I have to admit that in this case, talking about myself only, I would be doing so without the information that that process had, because I frankly don't have in-depth knowledge of these projects. And so as a member of those recommending bodies, I have felt undermined by that. I don't want to do that now as a commissioner, so I want to know, the two of you have been part of this development process, right, of the capital infrastructure plan. Will we be undermining some sense of citizen participation if we change what we're being recommended?
So, Mr. Chair and Commissioner Brown, in my opinion, I don't think so, because the reality is that when you develop your capital improvement plan, number one, we do have public input processes. And so we take that into consideration, and I know we had several public input processes in Gila, in the Mimbres area, as well as I think we had one here locally, if I remember correctly, Nisha. And so understand that moving forward is that if the county is going to apply for additional funding, say, through another funding source, it's important to remember that those funding sources also require public input. So what we try to do in strategizing and developing the plan is what could be some potential eligible projects that we could list, because we know looking forward that those funders are going to look at your capital improvement plan and give you additional points. Now, does that hold you to that? So remember, when you're in the top 5 capital outlays, if you don't submit the request that's in one of those projects in the top 5, the governor can veto it. But if it's another funding source, it doesn't mean that you get vetoed or it doesn't get funded. What it just means that you may not get the points for that particular section in that grant. So I think you have all the ability at any point in time to change your opinion of what you may see as a priority. And remember, you do have the authority as a governing body to change your ICIP at any point in time by resolution, saying that this resolution supersedes this one. So you can do that at any time. I think what's critical is that once this is submitted and the booklet is developed for the legislators, that's what the legislators get. But what I do, if an emergency or something like that changes within the next few months, because something happens and we have to change it and move it up, then what we do is do our very best to take that amendment of the ICIP and then just educate our legislators that this has occurred as a result of this. So you still have the ability within the next few months, if something should occur, to change that. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, partially, and Misha might have another part of it.
Thank you, Chairman, Commissioner Brown. So from what I heard, your question, it sounds to me, is that you're concerned that through the public input process, the numbering system was established from that. And I want to let you know that we always, I started the public input process in April. We did hold meetings in Cliff Gila. We held one in Hachita, one in Grant County, here proper, and then one in the members. And we had attendance in the members, and we had attendance in Hachita. The other two had no attendance. And the only input that we got was, yeah, the county's doing a great job. I supply them with the ICIP as it was written the year before. I'm open to any discussions with them. And so the numbering system stemmed from last year, and we did get a little bit of input from Commissioner Billings and kind of shuffled a little bit around, and now we're getting some more input from Commissioner Ramos. So,
can I say something?
Yes.
I also want to express that there's 600,000 gallons of water every single day coming out of the effluent, coming out of the facility in Bayard that is affluent water and going straight into the tailings. So we're purifying the water, turning around with and thanks to Freeport McMoran, they're accepting that water because there's nowhere else we could put it at the time. But it's going straight into the tailings and being contaminated. And 600,000 gallons times 365, we're talking 219 million gallons a year. Now, do we want to continue to lose that kind of water? I don't think so. I've brought this up time and time again, and maybe it's because I'm not one of the favorites for these groups that are actually fighting and trying to get green projects, and maybe that's why they're not helping us on this issue. But I think that is one of the biggest issues we have in this county, and we even went as far as creating a state of emergency and still no help. So I really feel that we need to work on this project, whether we turn around and put that water back into Twin Sister as a waterfowl area or a reservoir to create recreation, whatever we do, but we need to make sure that we start utilizing that water and saving it for the future, and hopefully creating a water bubble for Santa Clara and Bayard so that they can continue to utilize water for a very long time. So I thought I needed to state that, and that's why I'm so into wanting to move this portion up on the list.
Further discussion on the amendment? Vote on the amendment? Yes.
Can I ask, I'm sorry, just one clarifying question. On the amendment, we are strictly switching spots.
That's what I understand.
Okay, I just want to make sure.
If we want to have another amendment to move that one back up, we can do that, but that's what the amendment states now. It's been seconded.
Great, thank you.
Not shoving everything down. I don't know if it matters, but I would assume we were shoving everything down. We're just swapping. Okay.
That's what he said.
All right.
So, any further discussion on the amendment? All those in favor of the amendment, say aye. Aye. Motion passes. So now we have the main motion on the floor to approve the ICIP as amended. Is there any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. It's getting to be 11 o'clock. Is everybody doing all right? We're going to take a 15-minute recess, and we will return then. Try and get a motion to do so. So moved. Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Call back to order the Grant County Commission. Next item on the agenda is to approve, disapprove Resolution R-1736, adoption. Oh, it's because I don't have my microphone on. Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? All right. Next item on the agenda is approve or disapprove resolution number R-1736, adoption of the required community development block grant annual certification and commitments.
I move to approve resolution number R-17-36.
I'll second. There's a motion and a second to approve R-1736. Is there discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. R. I can get my lips wet before we start this one. Approve or disapprove resolution number R-1737, authorizing the execution and delivery of a local government planning grant agreement by and between the New Mexico Finance Authority and Grant County in the amount of $12,500, evidencing an obligation of the guarantee to utilize the grant amount and the local match amount solely for the purpose of financing the costs of a comprehensive plan and solely in the manner described in the grant agreement, certifying that the grant amount, together with the local match amount and other funds available to this grantee, is sufficient to complete the project. Approving the form of and other details concerning the grant agreement, ratifying the actions heretofore taken, repealing all action inconsistent with this resolution, and authorizing the taking of other actions in connection with the execution and delivery of the grant agreement. I don't really know what that says, but I think we ought to approve it.
Enlighten us on what you just said.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution R-17-37.
You're not going to read it?
No, sir.
I just have to do that reading. Any discussion? Bill, you want that read again? All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Approve or disapprove Resolution R-1738, a resolution ratifying the agreement number A-1729 between Grant County and the Southwest New Mexico Council of Governments dated August 17, 2017, and authorizing the execution of the same. I'm only allotted so many words a day that I can say correctly, and I'm through those, so.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make the motion that we approve Resolution R-17-38.
I'll second that.
The motion is second to approve A-1738. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Approve or disapprove Resolution R-1739, notice of intent to consider an ordinance authorizing the operation of off-highway motor vehicles on streets or highways owned and controlled by Grant County. This is on the agenda again because we are in the process of doing some amendments. Some commissioners want it, so this gives us the right to hear this in September.
And we would want to note that we need to amend this slightly because we are combining the work session and the regular meeting on September 19th instead of the 21st. So that will read, it will be considered by the board at a regular meeting held on September 19th.
Okay.
I move to approve Resolution R-17-39 with the amendments as articulated by the county manager.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor, discussion? Yes, we do.
Mainly for the purpose of confession, which I'm told is good for me, and also in line with other discussions we've had at our work session. I expressed some ignorance about this, and I want to correct that. Turns out it is currently legal to drive off-highway vehicles off of paved roads. And it had been my understanding, even though I had researched this quite a bit, I had never looked at that simple fact. It had been my understanding that that was not legal except in the forest, basically. It is currently legal off of paved roads, even if they're county roads. So this ordinance is really just talking about the roughly 70 miles of county paved roads that we control. So that's my new, better informed understanding.
Perfect. Thank you. Further discussion?
Thank you for that clarification.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Request for proposals. Approve or disapprove RFP 1703, inmate health services for the Grant County Detention Center, and Core Values came in with the highest score for that group.
Could you explain that process since some of the bidders are here?
The time I released the RFP, I don't recall exactly what date. We had 3 responses. We had a response from Core Health, Core Values, and HCP Systems. The RFP was assigned to a review committee who has scored the proposals. Core Values was the high-ranking proposal. We entered into negotiations pursuant to state statute with the high-ranking firm for their best and final offer, and that's what's being recommended to you today, as I explained on Tuesday.
Further discussion? Can I get a motion? Guess what, I get a motion?
I'd be happy to move that we approve the RFP 1703 being granted to Core, I'm sorry, was it Values or Health? It was Core Values. Core Values LLC. I wanted to make sure I got that right.
Is there a second? There's a motion and a second to approve RFP 1703 to Core Values. Is there any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. I'll take a motion to recess the Grant County Board of Commissioners at this time.
So moved.
Second. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Call to order the Grant County Health Care Claims Board. First item on the agenda for the Claims Board is approve or disapprove the June and July 2017 health plan claims in the amount of $60,000 $921.19, where $49,866.51 were to Gila Regional Medical Center, and $11,055.48 to GRMC Ambulance.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we approve June and July's 2017 health plan claims.
Motion is second to approve the health plan claims for July 2017. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Approve or disapprove an indigent burial. Bright Funeral Home will be performing this indigent burial for us.
I move to approve indigent burial.
I'll second. So motion is second to approve the indigent burial for Bright Funeral Home. Any discussion on the motion? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Can I get a motion to adjourn the Grant County Health Care Claims Board? Second, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes. Call back to order the Grant County Board of Commissioners, and we will stand for elected officials' reports. And we'll start with the sheriff, since he's so far down there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. I want to present to you my report for July, and I'm going to be going over my stats in my office. The stats for my patrol division, we handled a total of 759 calls for service for the month of July. We took 161 reports, and we investigated 9 motor vehicle crashes. They also served 55 warrants in that month. The stats for my civil process division for July, we served 488 papers to include DVOs, subpoenas, and writs. We did 9 round-trip transports to prisons and other facilities for a total of 4,886 miles. The staff has been extremely busy with everything going on. They've been keeping up with the workload, and I'm very proud to say that they've been keeping up with it. It has been a challenge, but they have been able to continue to do their job, and I'm proud of them for doing that. Currently, we are having in-house biennium training being taught by instructors that I have in my department. They've been going through use of force. We've done our firearms training, which is all required by the state to keep our certification. We've had it going on for the last couple of weeks. We're going to be training again next week. Currently, I have 4 vacancies of deputies that have left the department to go on to other departments that are paying them a little bit more money. With those 4 vacancies, I just received 2 letters of resignation that are going to be effective by the end of this month, which will create 6 vacancies. I am very concerned with the loss of staff because of this, and it all has to do with money, and I understand. I am concerned because it's not only putting this community's safety in jeopardy, it is also putting my staff in jeopardy because they are running out there, minimal staff. I am making adjustments, making changes, and moving people around to accommodate the loss of the deputies, but I feel we strongly need to do something to get them something to be able to retain these people. We have advertised for positions, and I can be honest with you, I can tell you, we received approximately 20 applications. They're all uncertified. The certifieds that I do receive are not, they're coming from other departments that may possibly have problems that are not passing our backgrounds. And it is very hard to replace a good quality certified deputy that I have lost. And I have lost many good ones because they're getting offered more money. I know that we're on the agenda to have a closed session to go over this, but I do want to make it aware that we need to really do something for this, because I'm not only concerned for myself, I'm concerned for this community. Other than that, I stand for questions, but I do want to thank the staff for sticking by, and the ones that have, and the ones that are continuing to do what they're being paid to do, and being here for the community. That's our main priority. Is we're here as public servants for the community, and we are here to ensure that they are safe, and also the staff needs to be safe. And I just ask for any help that you guys can give us with this. Thank you.
Any questions for the sheriff? Oh, Charlene?
I have a question. You had mentioned the 9 transports of approximately, I think you said 4,800 miles?
Yes.
Those are to prisons?
To prisons and pickups back and forth, yes.
So are you utilizing the shuttle that that will pick up prisoners and shuttle them to DOC in Los Lunas and in Las Cruces to kind of minimize your staff's time and the mileage, or?
At the moment, we haven't. It just depends where we go do the transport, and then we can make an arrangement to get it done. Currently, we haven't utilized them, but that is something that we're looking into. But it just depends what area we have to pick these individuals up. There's some that are out of state, some in state, and it just depends. But, I mean, I'm going to try and do whatever I can to save as much as I can and help my staff, because, like I say, I'm taking from other divisions to cover patrol, and that's going to shorthand me there in that division. So, but
Okay, I wanted to make sure that you were aware of that, because I'm getting some indications that maybe that wasn't fully explained, that that's an option to reduce a lot of time and mileage.
Yes.
Okay, further questions for the sheriff? None? Thanks, Sheriff, appreciate it. Mr. Assessor?
Mr. Chairman, board members, I just want to say I really enjoy my staff. I thank them for everything that they're doing. Our heads are above water at this moment, and that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Treasurer?
You have my report for month ending August 16th. We collected $25,230.34. However, the total receipts at the bottom will show we're up year-to-date $2,235,435.01, as with $1.3 million in that month for other entities and the money that we process through our office. I want to ask your attention, please. Okay? First of all, Mr. Ramos, I do not appreciate you calling me a liar for all practical purposes. Yes, you did, sir. Yes, absolutely did. That's what you were trying to say. I am not a politician, Mr. Ramos. Mr. Diaz.
We are not going to get a yelling match.
I just wanted to make sure that he had his say too, because when you blame somebody for the way you did, they got to make sure that they should be in. And I'll ask him to come to the next meeting.
From saying anything about that person, and I never mentioned him by name. We had Mr. Gutierrez here, who was the person that I confronted about the situation, and he was here to verify. And the comments that he was making to me, for me making the comments, I did not appreciate that either. I don't know if you could read his lips, but they were not very, very nice, okay? Because he thought I tanked his project. That's what he had, because he knows that those conversations were held. Because he and I discussed it at length. And I said, why are you letting them do it? I said, they can do whatever they want. Okay? So Mr. Gutierrez was here. I went out to try to bring him back in here so he could be here to verify that. I went out and called the gentleman from Nuna County to try, but he refused to talk to me. But I am not going to bring something to this board that is not the absolute truth. Okay? I am not a liar, and I am not a politician. I don't care about politics. I care about what's going on in this county. Like I said, I will not bring to you guys stuff that is not the truth.
So,
as they say,
move on with the treasurer's report. We're not going to have this discussion here today. Do you want to do a treasurer's report, or do you want me to move on? Please let me know.
This does affect my office and how...
And I think you and Commissioner Ramos should get together and talk this through. I do not think this ought to be done in public.
Well, his comments were very public, so I just had to reply in public.
And you have.
I will make every effort to make sure that people are in place before I make another comment. So if y'all have any questions or any comments, I entertain that.
Questions for the treasurer? I see none. Thank you, Mr. Treasurer. Madam Clerk.
Chairman, Commissioners. I'd just like to say we just finished an election for the Copiah Consolidated School District. They had a special bond election, and it passed. There was 214 yeses and 63 noes. Other than that, business as usual in the clerk's office.
Good job.
Good job. Am I missing anybody on elected officials? I don't see anybody else. Okay. We'll move into commissioners' reports. You want to start, Mr. Brown? You got one?
Be happy to. Fairly brief. I think most folks are aware, but I want to make sure everyone is, that the annual Gila River Festival is coming up September 21 to 24. And now's the time to get online at gilaconservation.org and reserve your spot for a lot of their trips. They sell out fast. As part of the Gila River Festival this year, there's a fabulous art installation at the former Curious Kumquat, corner of Bullard and College. And I was able to go last night to a preliminary opening. It was excellent. I never thought I'd appreciate perfumery as much as I did, and I'm going to leave that to your imagination. Go there during the Gila River Festival, again, September 21 through 24 at the Kumquat, and there will be other opportunities after the Gila River Festival to go see it as well, the Art Walk, and one other public event. So I think that's all I have to say. So thank you. Commissioner Williams.
I wanted to say that the ordinance we'll be considering next month does not include ATVs, and maybe it's just a misuse of terms, but there was a lot said about ATVs this morning. We're not allowing the use of ATVs. It's actually what would be UTVs. But I'd like to say that I've made a friend, actually my wife has, her name is Teresa Terrazas. She has cancer, and we didn't know her prior to recent events at the Cancer Center. Yesterday she was receiving her chemo in Las Cruces and posted her picture on Facebook, and she's cute and optimistic. They had a fire drill, and so she was getting her chemo outside. And I just, some of you may know her, but, and I know the family, but I just want there to continually be brought to public attention the need to quickly get cancer services back here locally. She had quite a conversation on Facebook, I'll spare you, with my wife this morning about the difficulties of getting to Las Cruces and the kind of treatment she gets there as compared to what she got here, and it just goes on and on. I do want to, again, welcome Taffy Arias, and I know that she's working hard. I don't blame any of this on her by any means, and I am thankful for her in-depth report so we know a little bit more what's going on with the Cancer Center, and so the public does. And I look forward to the day when complete services are restored back here. So when, in the campaign last year, I made it a point to support verbally the sheriff's deputies and the sheriff's department, and I acknowledged and have sometimes since then that they go out every day and put their lives on the line, not even knowing at which moment in time their lives could be severely risked. And I campaigned for a pay increase that would bring them to the average. Last week, I think the sheriff mentioned this. A friend of mine that works in the sheriff's department has resigned, and so I was expecting that. Sorry. So I had to call him and apologize that I had let him down, and it was nice of him to call me back. I was actually surprised that he called me back, and we had a discussion. I'm still in favor of, but I also realize now something I didn't know in the campaign, that there's some hurdles and some issues to work through. So I hope the powers that be can get together and work out these issues so that our sheriff's deputies can be paid and some morale can be restored in that department before. And it wasn't just about my friend that left. There's more than that I didn't know. And I'm not here to place blame on anyone, and I will take my share of the blame. But I think we can come together, I hope, and work this out. And it's going to take some give and take. It's going to be difficult. So, but let's do it, please. Thanks.
So I would follow up on Commissioner Billings' comments by saying that I too think that we have an opportunity to sit down and talk through some of these things. I think there are some very big challenges facing the county. And when I say facing the county, I include everybody who is associated with the county in that comment. But I firmly believe the only way to address those challenges is to sit down and talk through how we can best address those challenges. I'd also just like to say that it is very important to me, and actually this is something that I campaigned on, that I think it is very important for us to have accountability and transparency within the county. And I really feel like everyone who is associated with the county, management, admin, the commissioners, are all committed to that. And I would encourage you that if you have any questions about what's happening in the county at any time, whether it's finances or the budget or anything else, to exercise your right to an answer by calling your commissioner, coming to a public meeting and ask questions, or making an appointment with the county manager to discuss your concerns. It is my firm belief that anyone that you talk to in the county about your concerns will give you a full and complete answer, and if they can't, will find the information for you. So I encourage you to make use of that. Thank you.
I just wanted to start by, I had quite a few questions this last probably month about how things are going in the county, and I actually think things are going pretty well, other than, not being able to give raises that have been requested. But all in all, I think things are going well. I think we got a healthy budget. I think things are moving forward. One of the questions was, why did we create an administrative assistant, airport manager, and road supervisor? Well, those weren't created. They've been in the budget for the past probably, I'm thinking 6 years. And but they just were never filled. And finally, we got tired of our county manager having to pull our sitting attorney and utilizing her as a secretary. So we really felt that our attorney needed to do her job and not have to do these other duties that were being assigned to her. And so we felt that we needed that assistant to help her out. None of this stuff is just brought up and created. They're really thought through, and we really need to work hard to continue to keep morale up, not only in the sheriff's office, but on these other offices too, and these other positions. For instance, Earl, our road superintendent, used to be one of the supervisors, and he was our superintendent for, I think, 3 years without a supervisor under him. So that we decided to make sure that we brought back that position. It wasn't a created position. It was a position that was brought back to the county, and to relieve him from having to work so diligent and so hard and not so many hours. So that was a question that was asked of me. So I felt that I really needed to put that out there. when it comes to county expenses, of course county expenses are going to go up. Didn't anybody listen to the meetings we've had in the past that insurance went up, I believe, by 29%? So of course our expenditures are going to go up, and they asked how much, and I'm going to research and give them a good answer. So these questions were brought up. But year to year, things do, prices of services do go up, and when prices of services go up, we have to provide the money in the budget to do the best we can as commissioners, because that is one of our main duties. I also was asked, are you planning to decertify the union? And I said, no, not only no, but heck no. Okay? I was a union member myself, and I know how important a union can be. I've belonged to good unions, and I've belonged to some bad unions. But, and I guess I shouldn't even say bad union, I should just say bad representation. But I still agree that we need to keep our union here, because it's so much easier to deal with the handbook and the way things are written than to have to make things up yourself and create different situations and policies. So, no, I do not support decertifying any union, and I don't think there's been anything talked about when it comes to decertifying unions throughout the county and in the county. Let me see here. How are commissioners protecting the county? Well, we're protecting the county in different ways, I think. Of course, we provide the budget for the sheriff, which I think does a very good job for our county. And I think we protect our county by keeping a good budget and doing the best we can to make sure that every department runs well. I know that there's been department heads and elected officials asking for more people in their offices, but we've had to make some very important decisions, and we'll continue to do so and continue to do our best. Those are the questions that were asked of me, and that's pretty much all I've got for my report. I just wanted to make sure that I answered those questions, because it was brought to my attention by a few people when it came to these questions, and feel free to answer these questions at any time, commissioners. I know it's hard. I think that's the hardest part of being a commissioner, is answering these tough questions and knowing that in your heart you're doing the best that you can for the county. I think that's all I've got. Thank you.
You bet. Well, I want to thank all the elected officials for their reports and the commissioners for their reports, and I talked the entire time of the meeting, so I am not going to talk some more. So at this time, I would take a motion to move into executive session.
So moved.
Motion and a second to move into executive session. Let's take a roll call vote.
So as a matter of discussion, it was mentioned, it sounded to me like we were moving into executive session to deal with salaries, and I want to make clear that we're not. That is not a privilege.
It's a personnel issue with the sheriff's department.
Thank you.
Commissioner Brown, are you aware that you are entering into executive session?
Yes, I am.
Commissioner Billy?
Yes.
Commissioner Ramos, are you
Yes,
aware?
thanks for bringing that up.
Chairman Caston, are you aware?
I am.
Commissioner Edwards, are you aware that you're in? Yes, I am. Okay.
So the motion passes. We will go into we're in executive session, and we will adjourn immediately thereafter, and we will not make any decisions.